There's 2 sessions ahead of us. We're going to merge them into one. So we've got a bunch of product folks and a bunch of customer experience and employee experience people who are going to join me on stage. And I think it may be actually a better idea because for this to be successfully deployed, both the humans and AI need to operate together in concert. So I think we're going to invite 2 companies up, DocuSign and Elsevier. It's 3 syllables, so that's a challenge for me. So please join me on stage. And Kamal. So this gentleman, Colin, may need to leave to grab a train to help a train. There's more to that story. So if he disappears off stage, it's not because of health reasons. He has other priorities. So thank you for giving us the time. Appreciate you joining us. Maybe we do a quick intro of who you are and your company. I'm going to skip over you, Kamal, because I think we all know Kore. We've had a few slides about them. So will we start with you, Carolina?
I was just testing the audio. So hi, I'm Carolina. I'm the lead engineer for the end user automation team at DocuSign. Our main focus is on employee experience bot, so serving employees for employee-related use cases.
Great, awesome, thank you. And you're from DocuSign?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been told to go next. My name is Colin Ogilvie. I'm a software engineering manager for Elsevier. We're a data and analytics publishing company. We've been doing digital assistants for about 4 years, and we've moved to GenAI ones, started the project about a year ago.
Thank you, and I'm Geraldine Melvin. I also work along with Colin at Elsevier, and I'm the customer experience and insights manager. I work on, one of the things I do is work on the project.
It's great. Well, look, thanks for joining us. So what these guys have in common is they all actually had deployed bots pre the launch of ChatGPT. So they had a strategy. They were happy with that strategy. And then about 2 years ago, ChatGPT kind of came along and turned their worlds upside down, which we appreciated. So they've been now operating in an agentic environment, whether it be on the customer side, whether it be on the employee side. So my first question to the panel is, looking back today, all the way back over the last 3, 4, 5 years, what are the key learnings you can take away that this audience may be interested in? Can we start with DocuSign?
Yeah, so as pointed, even before most leaderships figured out ChatGPT and AI, we already had a chatbot implemented at DocuSign to serve employees. I think the main outcome that, to be fair, it didn't change 5 years to now is that if you don't know your data, if you don't know your process, it doesn't matter how magical it is on the delivery of the experience because your process won't follow. So it really requires a good knowledge of your foundations in order to deliver good value for both company and employees.
That's good. Colin, I think you've got some similar opinions on this.
Well, from a technical perspective, I think that it's just that the world is constantly changing. So I must admit, I will admit that I'm not a fan of generative AI, etc. I think it's a lot of bad that can come from it. I am starting to come around to it. But I think just the technology changes so much. And what you think you know now, you probably forget in 2 or 3 months' time it's changed. I think you'd probably agree with that one, Geraldine.
I do, and I think also from, if you think about it from the customer's perspective as well, customer expectations change as well. So where we were 3, 4 years ago, the expectations have grown so much because of the explosion of ChatGPT and the number of bots that are available out there. So they expect yours to do the same as everybody else's, and if you're not quite that far advanced yet, it can be tricky to handle.
Got it. So, Caroline, I'm going to steal one of your phrases, if that's okay. There's a view with certain leadership that there's this AI pixie dust out there. And when you deploy AI and suddenly transformation happens in the business and the cost savings come in and value creation emerges overnight. It may not exactly be like that. How are you managing, one, the customer expectation, but two, your leadership expectation?
Yeah, we do our best to manage the leadership expectation, but it does take a while actually to be able to convey that you cannot necessarily chat your problems away. In fact, at least on a corporate employee experience context, you can only chat your problems away by a benchmark of 35% of the time. That's usually where there is opportunity to deflection. All the rest is actually the high value driver use cases. They are actually way more dependent on automation. So the best way that, at least internally, I found to justify and try to explain that by offering the gen text feature on the employee experience, that but because of ChatGPT, expectations were kind of mixed, expecting that, you know, that conversation and action would be properly delivered in the same sense. It was basically to build a distinction between what from all the universe of utterances and queries that are landing has an opportunity actually to go beyond deflection. So it could be distinguished from what actually needs the support, again, of data, process, automation, and whatnot in order to deliver value to the user, and what is actually a quick win by means of deflection.
Got it. How about over with you?
I think I just echo one of the comments that was in the previous thing. It's not just the technology and the magic pixie dust. You have to put in the legwork. So if your knowledge is not up to speed, you feed it into the bot, it's just going to tell you what is there, and it may not be what you want, it may not be suitable. You may discover, as we did, that your support answers actually tell you to contact an agent. So having the bot tell you to contact an agent is probably not the best sort of flow. So you've got to make sure that what's there is good to begin with, because the magic pixie dust is not going to make it any better.
No, rubbish in, rubbish out, as someone rightly tells me quite often. And I think also from a customer experience point of view, and it echoes the last presentation as well, is constantly looking at what's coming in. So the utterances that are not met, but not just those utterances that aren't met, but also, as you say, the good conversations as well, to make sure what can we improve, what can we change, catch what we're not being able to provide at the moment, and just making sure you're evolving each time. So it's not, I think it's been said today by a number of people, it's not a one-time fix thing. It is constantly evolving every day.
Got it. When you originally started, and maybe you can help us here, Kamal, as well, did you have a metric that you chose that you wanted to impact, or did you just say, let's just go experiment? Take us through the original journey on day one and said, I'm going to begin with a bot, with agenticai, and this is what I want to do. How did you take your first step?
Internally, of course, that we do have, let's say, overall goals and OKRs from the organization. So being on corporate infrastructure, back office, the only way that actually to impact from a productivity and financial standpoint is to look at OPEX as a whole. So overall there, we had guidelines to at least engage with the idea of reducing or repurposing OPEX budget for other things, therefore productivity. So looking at that and starting at first, which was already the bot that we already had, that it was already targeted for IT support, at least at a first glance. The idea was, what can we do to impact positively on reduction of tickets? From there, the generation of metrics that I created was basically automation versus human interaction rate. So the proportions of, you know, overall intake, how many represent something that it could either be deflected or resolved by means of knowledge or automation, and then of course smaller metrics that work closer to the reduction of the number of tickets, either by intent or entity group as well.
It's good. Geraldine, I love what you shared earlier, which was you actually put a constraint on what could happen on customer satisfaction when you put a bot in.
So we, from top down, I suppose, there was a desire not to impact customer satisfaction and effort. So at the end of all our interactions, we ask customer satisfaction question, which we actually have in the bot as well. So if the answer is provided by Search Assist, or it is a designed conversation flow maybe that actually comes to a resolution, then we will get a CSAT score there. We've actually just changed the wording so it doesn't get confusing. It's actually now a bot satisfaction score. But with our CSAT score, so when it gets transferred to an agent, they'll be sent a follow-up survey. And we wanted to make sure that, or the management wanted to make sure that the CSAT and the effort of those that started with the bot and moved to an agent wasn't impacted. Not convinced it's completely the right way of doing things, if I'm completely honest, because I think if you've got that little bit more effort, it is going to impact effort. But yeah, there's certainly the kind of customer metric side of things, and then we have some kind of bot metrics as well.
Yeah, we're looking at some metrics on bots, but the other thing we were quite clear about when we started this project, even though that was the challenge, was that actually if you look at the non-bot CSAT, it may change, because all of a sudden your agents are now getting the more complex queries or the things that they take longer to solve rather than the simple queries. And user behavior probably indicates that they're more likely to give a negative CSAT if it takes a long time to solve, or if it's much more challenging, or they don't get the answer they want. So we were quite clear from the beginning that actually the CSAT scores may vary. I'm not sure we've seen that though.
We're doing some more analysis at the moment because we're starting to really get the numbers up now of those surveys. And the one thing I will just say with the bot survey is it's a great metric to have, but it's very much never going to be one of our kind of North Star metrics because, again, kind of user behavior, if you've just been given the answer to go and do something and you're doing it, you're not necessarily going to give a bot that time. You've not got that investment. So we don't see, even with conversations that have, either conversations or Search Assist responses that have gone right to the end, we're not seeing those all turn into a survey response just because of the human behavior that you're not going to take more time out just to say thank you to a bot necessarily.
Yep. Kamal, as you were looking on as they were doing all of this, what did you see?
So from my perspective, when we talk about impact, the first thing, I mean, with DocuSign or Elsevier or with any other customers, the first thing I ask is, do you know what your value drivers are like? Why are you doing this project, right? These are the kind of basic questions that we should be aware of. So the kind of conversation that we spark during our first calls is to understand what exactly is driving this initiative. Do you want to improve the customer satisfaction, or do you want to introduce efficiency, or do you want to cut down costs, or what's the value driver? And then based on that, we then work with customers to understand, okay, let's get the data right. Okay, you need to understand what's going on right now. If you want to introduce efficiency, you know, how many queries are being handled by agents right now? How many of those can be automated? So again, all those questions we start during our introductory session, and then we create kind of template to ensure that we are able to measure it over a period of time. So cutting back to, you know, the way we're working with right now with Elsevier and DocuSign is we're trying to get answers to many of those questions. And as we progress, and along with Belfius as well, where we are trying to see how much containment is there by the bot. And this is the exact kind of impact on the business that initiatives such as Kore.ai or any kind of AI initiatives that drives. But just to add to earlier, you've asked a question around, you know, how ChatGPT and GenAI has kind of impacted the expectations. So it does make a lot of difference because, you know, from the technical perspective, people know what can be possible and what is not possible. However, from the business perspective, there's a bit of a misalignment in expectations at times. So in those cases, the way, again, I'd be open for more conversations, is we need to understand, right, what exactly are we trying to achieve, right? The 3 Gs are important whenever we are talking about any kind of large language models, or you're integrating Kore or any platform with LLMs or OpenAI or anything, is the 3 Gs are governance, grounded, and the ability to, get the guidance going. So all these 3 things are really important, because earlier I think it was BCG, Nick was mentioning about the governance. So, okay, yeah, perfect. I'm just going to pause about it because I love having a mic with me.
Yeah. That's good. When we hear about AI, we also hear about the talent shortage. And some companies are waiting, for people, talent to come along that's AI trained. I'm sure Nick has everybody running to get a governance degree from Oxford now or something like that. But you guys just went out there and started. You didn't wait for special AI talent to come into your business. You had your experts, you had your customer experience experts. How did you move forward without advertising for AI experts to come into your business to actually begin to create value?
Well, I think we didn't necessarily look for AI experts to go into the business, but we did work with some implementation partners when we started the AI journey. But we also worked closely with the subject matter experts and the customer services team, and Geraldine can sort of talk more about that. But we recruited people that knew things like conversation design so that we could design the conversations. Yeah. But from the AI side, it's generally just been working with implementation partners and knowledge that we've had internally. And some of the core team as well, when they were doing demos to us, when we were doing the evaluations.
I think what we've done is, as you say, not necessarily brought those AI experts in, but also kind of trained up as we've gone along. I mean, I will get told off for it. I'm about to say I'm going to get told off. I'm not technical at all, but I jumped at the chance to be involved in the project. So I'm involved in the project from my CX experience side, but also I trained as a conversation designer as well at the beginning of the project, something I'd never done before. And we've taken those subject matter experts and we've trained those as well, explained how AI works. We've all gone on foundational courses through online learning at work as well. And I think we've just kind of felt as we've gone along, learned as we've gone along. And sometimes I think that's the best thing, because we've kind of grown together, we've failed together. It's not always been plain sailing. And I think that to us is more important, was actually bringing everyone along that also wanted to be involved in the project as well.
That's good. Carolina?
Yeah, internally at DocuSign, there are 2, I think, main things that me and my team, we focus on. The first one was to stick to the foundations. We are not an AI team. We are an automation team that uses AI when it actually makes sense. We don't see Kore as an AI platform. We see it as a platform that it can actually deliver either automation in itself in a traditional sense, or embed AI throughout the experience, right? So what we actually did was just to stick to the high effort of building up on top of foundations. And I actually had to do a huge amount of pushback from external stakeholders into either try to persist with different solutions that would just deliver partially, and actually place my resources into keep working on the foundations, because with foundations, the delivery of whatever use case might be, it can be faster. The second item is, you mentioned in terms of resources. My team and we already come from a background of automation and RPA. So the transition was fairly simple. But we know for a fact that eventually we need to actually start introducing these concepts externally. So what we started actually to do was the first group that expressed interest to try to develop a bot internally was enterprise applications RPA team. So we brought them at first, so we can sort of use them as a guinea pig in terms of like gathering what are the requirements for when we need to actually train non-experienced, potential future bot developers. So we got first whoever was like closest in terms of a skill set, that the transition would be more simple.
That's good. So you work for a US company, you work for a global company, but all of you work for global companies. We're here in Europe, we're here in England. There's a little bit more regulation here than maybe we're used to over in the US. But I have this hypothesis that this may be the home of innovation, where the future of guardrails, the rest of the world will actually look towards. And Europe taking its time, England maybe taking a little bit of its time, may actually serve as a beacon for the rest of the world to learn from. How are you thinking, if you imagine Europe and the UK to be on the forefront of guardrails, which we think might drive innovation, that actually will benefit us in the years to come?
Internally speaking, because it is an EX bot serving employees, there is an extra amount of concern and criteria that we need to take into account when handling employee data, especially in regards to European Union. So a lot of the things I already saw before during GDPR implementation, I don't know, around 2013, 2014, give it or take. So certain things are happening in a similar fashion, right? So what we've been doing internally actually is developing flexible strategies of localization where we can actually bring local requirements into the table when catering the audience targeting strategies within the bot. So as an example, you have different payroll systems from one country to another. And then you have, by law, a number of PII data that might be tolerated in a country versus another. So we got the most conservative list of requirements in terms of data handling. And then I came out with a PII-averse infrastructure that actually reflects into delivering the experience, but eliminating the PII aspects before logging, for example. And then other mechanisms as well for reduction after the fact, just to be sure.
So you took the design sensibilities of the most complex and then...
And apply to on top of US, because California, for example, has just about the same regulations, at least on the GDPR level, that you will see here, so as Washington. So from that point of view, it was already worth it. And then when I actually deployed Kore, I decided to purchase and host Kore in the EU. So whatever comes out of AI Act, for example, when it becomes not only voluntary enrollment, basically on a platform level for both the Kore and our backend AWS, that they are basically compliant by design.
That's good.
Yeah, I think there's guardrails in terms of that. There's also things to protect your brand. We've probably all seen the stories of, I think it was Air Canada, where the bot said something and it was upheld in law that what the bot said was true, even though it wasn't. I've seen stories recently of a UK website that said that you can travel as an adult on a child train ticket, for example. We've had to put in things in place to stop hallucinations coming out, but also to stop people manipulating things to protect brand. So we've tried to stop people saying, write the answer in the form of a haiku, etc. And we've had to put those guardrails in as well, just to make sure that the brand is protected.
Okay, good. So we got people dialing in. Let's open it up to the audience. Any questions that you'd like to ask the panel or Kamal? Can we get a mic over here? Please. Thank you. Thanks, Charles.
Yeah, hi. So we talked about the productivity gain as well as the customer experience in terms of this agentic AI. So in terms of the numbers, how that stand and which one have a more weightage in terms of really driving and adopting agentic AI?
I'm really sorry, I don't have the numbers to handle from Elsevier's perspective, so.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I cannot give like in very deep, extensive details, of course, for a matter of confidentiality. But overall speaking, in use cases and bots that are deployed in order to speed up support experiences, those are the quickest winners, especially when you look at deflections and you target your bots to actually ingest and retrain on the basis of knowledge. You learn that a lot of things actually you could save time from both supports and even more senior analysts by doing a good training of your knowledge base and the governance behind, which is equally, if not even more important. So in terms of numbers, for example, since the deployment in particular of the GenAI integration, we already managed just in a few weeks of collection of data after implementation, we were already seeing an increase from 15% of deflection overall on the metrics to about 22, give it or take. And this is not even factoring that we didn't enter the cycle of collecting everything that is like obsolete in a knowledge basis, because we don't own the knowledge base. The stakeholders that are the ones in charge of keeping the knowledge up to date, right? So even before going through the circle and say, hey, you have a lot of stuff out of date here to be retired or changed, it was already like just the quality of the answer provided to the user. It was clearer than before, let's say, with an extractive model, for example. And then everything that in regards to automation, it really varies from chatbot to chatbot. There is an element of identifying what are the automation quick wins before making the decision of deploying efforts to automate end-to-end.
Yeah. You know, any meeting I've been in, we'll go in with very low estimates. When I say low estimates, they tend to be double digits, which sometimes we see as big numbers. And the reaction we get is, we think you're too conservative. So I think the expectation, I'll share one number, I won't mention the company. We worked with one company, they had an outsourcing bill of $150 million a year. It's now under 100. They can track all of the savings directly back to their AI deployment. But equally, that AI deployment exposed some of the other things that they had to retire, other processes. And it challenges you that as you go from, I think Nick may have mentioned this, do you deploy, do you reshape, or do you invent? The companies that end up in this reshape and invent, their value creation is certainly nonlinear and tends to be more elastic on the upside.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
I think there's one more question there.
How do you mitigate for jailbreak risk? We had deployed internal chatbots on policy documentation, and we broke it at birth, really easily, and started delivering answers that we didn't want to hear.
Lots of careful prompt crafting. We spent quite a lot of time working with the implementation partner and also somebody internally, just crafting the prompt in Search Assist. So we've gone from a very small prompt to a very, very large prompt where we've had to stop doing haikus, stop bringing in extra data, etc. And essentially, it just tells you to go, and it tells you it doesn't understand, and if it does that 2 or 3 times, it'll send you to an agent.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Hi. So during the initial phases, when you have to identify the use cases for the automation, right? And you said that you pick those use cases which are easy to deploy, right? So what is the thought process and what rationale goes behind when you are actually identifying those automation use cases which can be automated through GenAI? For example, do you create a value complexity matrix and identify those low-hanging fruits?
Internally or externally?
External-facing bots, yeah.
Yeah, so for us, we took all of our utterances in our customer service system, and we had the data scientists work on kind of categorizing those. And then we take we kind of do it in a number of different ways. We'll take the most frequently asked kind of utterances, and we'll make sure that they are being able to be answered by the bot. And sometimes that means we have to make a designed conversation, especially if it's something where we need to have an exact answer each time. And then we also kind of do rely on our agents and our SMEs as well to make sure that we're covering any pain points. We right at the early on, and this is before GenAI, I will admit, but right early on, we knew that we had a user case for something that was about to happen. So that was not data-driven at all, because we had no data for it. But we knew from working with our SMEs and making sure that they're involved in the project right up front, that actually that's had a potential to spark a lot of queries that we wanted to try and capture through our bot to stop them coming into to the agents. So we did in a number of different ways. And again, constantly reviewing that data that's coming in, constantly reviewing what's coming in now that we're live to make sure that we've got the right user cases. And obviously we also, plugging, as I say, I'm not technical, so I don't know if the plug-in is the right word, but we kind of plug in the search assist to our FAQs. And that obviously has led to all the issues that you've said, making sure that the data is accurate, is up to date, doesn't lead you round into a circle. But that provides us with another kind of avenue of user cases.
And if you look at the workbench we provide, it allows you to optimize your answers based on accuracy, latency, and cost. So figure out which is the one that you want to dial up or dial down. And then I think what's critical, whether you're in healthcare, finance, let's call it regulated industries or deregulated industries, that you full traceability. So you can actually go and actually understand where did this occur, and then we can actually, at scale, you have to automate these experiences. You can't rely on humans. So the ability to track that and see what timed out, I think, is something we see as a great strength of the platform at scale.
Yeah. Just to add to that, I think there are 2 aspects to it, right? So when we work with customers, right, we need to understand how can we grow vertically as well as horizontally. By vertically, we mean when the bot is already live, how do you know that what all use cases to go, to penetrate deeper? In those cases, what Cathal was mentioning and what Geraldine was mentioning is that we take a look at the data, intent not found, and our platform does allow for that information. However, when you have to create a roadmap of how can we redefine or regenerate what use cases and how much more value we can deliver. In those cases, like you rightly mentioned, like we always prompt the customers to come up with kind of a metrics, right? High value, low complexity, and and then based on that, we understand which use cases could be delivered based on lower complexity but higher value, and then you use the data to provide a dollar value associated with it. So it's quite an interesting exercise we do even when the customers go live and as we progress on to drive more adoption and generation.
That's good. Probably have time for one more question, because I think there's something called alcohol been served somewhere. Any final questions? So let me ask you one last one. One piece of advice for the audience here who may be thinking about the journey, their AI journey, what would you suggest to them?
Work as close as you can. If you have this particular department in your company, work as close as possible with your enterprise architects. Because the more you place your bot aligned and overlapping with whatever layers these architects put in place to your company, the fastest you're gonna get results and value back from your bot experience. By design, it will be aligned with whatever data layer, business layer, and backend that you might have in place. It increases the chances.
And on the experience side?
Yeah, I think it's just making sure that you're putting the customer first, that you're always thinking about the customer, and that the metrics, the revision of the data, to keep seeing what you've got, and to make sure that the use cases that you are selecting to start off with, as you say, you know, are ones that I think we had the fail and what was the we call it value add and non-value add. I can't remember the terminology from earlier. Yes, the joy in the
joy in the
toil. That was it. We say value add and non-value add, but making sure that you've kind of got a balance between that as well, so that the agents, from an internal perspective, can get on with the joy, but equally you don't want a customer doing those non-value adds as well. So you know, if they can get the answer quick as well. So yeah,
good.
Look at what your customers are saying. Put your customers first.
Awesome. Well, look, hopefully some great insights. I learned a lot. Thank you for taking the time and deeply appreciate it.